Welcome back to the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show. Hanging out. Thank you very much for being part of the program today. Watering is an issue that we've all faced in one form or another. Tree Diaper has taken the guesswork out of watering with their innovative devices. The Tree Diaper.
How do you water your trees? You likely drag a hose over to it, let the hose run for about half an hour, and go do something else. Maybe then you forget about it. Stop doing that. You can increase your water efficiency and save money with the Tree Diaper. No hoses to drag around constantly. Tree Diaper is a revolutionary watering system that will slowly releases stored rainwater when trees need it. The Tree Diaper is filled with water from rain or when you water, and slowly releases water over 3 weeks. Tree Diaper will improve the way you water your plants. Every time it rains, Tree Diaper recharges. Made in the USA. Check out all the sizes they have available. TreeDiaper.com. That's TreeDiaper.com.
And it's not just for trees, vegetables. It works very well on vegetables as well. Well, we're going to go over, talk about the things that went well in our garden this year, things that didn't go so well in our garden this year. Not to brag or ask you to feel sorry for us, but we want to cover these things because you may have had some of the failures that we did, and we want to address those failures so we can all have a better garden next year.
And just like we talked about in the previous segment, we're not, everything's perfect and it's
we got weeds.
Sunshine, yeah. We have a lot of weeds, and that's
always been a challenge. Now,
yeah.
With that being said, we converted over to all raised beds this year. The weed problem has decreased compared to what it would have been if we continued to grow in the ground. Now that's saying we still have weeds, but removal of weeds in a raised bed is much easier than taking the pitchfork or the garden fork and fluffing the soil and removing the roots from not the greatest soil in the world. So that does help. And I don't know the percentile of, X amount this much lower than last year. We still have weeds, but it's much easier to remove them, much more easier to go, okay, we're going to do this bed here versus where is our ending point going to be when we're in the ground.
And just like many of you, we have, I don't want to say we have a life. I mean, we do, but we have, other things.
We don't live in the garden.
We don't live in the garden.
We don't have a gardener or a gardening lady.
Right. And we're not retired where maybe we can spend as much time in the garden as we would like. Yeah, we're not to the point we are, we're busy people.
Normal people, I guess.
Normal people with jobs and
normal
responsibilities.
Some people may classify as being.
And hobbies and all sorts of stuff.
So we got weeds.
We got weeds.
Onions and leeks did really well this year.
They did. And the shallots, too.
The shallots did well, much better than we have had in years past. The leeks are still growing. We'll harvest them probably right before the first freeze. Onions have already grown their cycle, and they are still in the ground. We harvest as we need. But those have done really, really well, and very pleased with that. What other things here, Holly?
So the tomatoes, they did, I would say I would give them probably like a grade B, C plus, or a B.
Right.
They did pretty good. They did decent. Not our overabundance harvest, and actually I'm okay with that.
Well, we've dehydrated.
Yeah.
I mean, we've lost tomatoes because of overripening and rot and disease issues.
But we forgot to stake them soon.
Yeah, we did some in Florida weave, and the other ones we staked and partially staked and all this and that. So we did lose some to ground rot, but we have dehydrated the majority of them, and we're still dehydrating them. And whenever the time comes, we will harvest the green ones and probably make fried green tomatoes. Everybody says that's the thing to do. We've never had them. You've never had them. I've never had them.
I don't think I have. I think I tried to make them once when I was much younger.
Oh,
yeah.
So we'll probably do that. We'll kind of reevaluate in the current raised beds that they're in. They're in 4-foot by 16-foot beds. There's 60 tomato plants, and the one bed has been grown tomatoes in them for 2 years. Haven't had much of an issue, and the book, quote unquote, says 2 years is the maximum. Well, we've never had issues with the tomatoes in that bed. Being the first year, last year, we built the bed, put fresh compost in, raised bed mix. This year, we topped the bed off with fresh compost, probably put 2-3 inches in. Next year, we'll top it off again. there's not been a massive or anything that I see in that bed going, these tomatoes, we can't do this again. They're bad. They're fine. We will probably put tomatoes in that bed again. Now, if it was traditional ground, obviously we would move them to a different location.
I think we should put the bulk or like a lot of leaves on those two beds.
Oh, yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll mulch leaves and let them feed the soil, and in the spring cover the leaves with the remaining compost that we have in order to top the beds off. Jerusalem artichokes, they are short this year, which we had this problem about 6 years ago. Typically, the plants get 12, 18, 20 foot tall, have very nice daisy-looking flowers or sunflower-looking flowers on them. They're very short this year. When this occurred multiple years ago, the tubers were not large as you would expect them to be. They were on the smaller side, but we kind of thinned them out, replanted some of the largest ones, and everything took off again. So we haven't dug into that bed yet, but I don't see that there's going to be much of an issue. We've always had Jerusalem artichokes, never had a year where we said, oh no, we don't have any Jerusalem artichokes. It's a plant that's a perennial that continues to come back year after year without any issue whatsoever. So if you're in a situation, you're in a particular location where you may have the corner of a lot or an area where you don't like to mow the grass or something of that magnitude, plant Jerusalem artichokes. You can go in there, harvest, the rest set there over the winter, they resprout, kind of takes care of itself. Really don't have to do a whole lot.
No, they are good like that. So our cucumbers were hit and miss. We had some good ones, some not so good ones, and I feel like that's just how cucumbers are.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think we've ever had a time where it was like we had cucumbers. Maybe the first summer,
yeah.
But that was like a special summer. It was super hot.
Rained every 3 days.
Yeah, rained every 3 days.
Got super hot, dried out, rained every 3 days,
Yeah.
dried out, rained every, that type of thing.
Cucumbers coming out of
Squash,
everywhere.
butternut squash, delectica squash, spaghetti squash, all have done very, very well. And we contribute that because to the tree diaper. We have those particular plants in beds that the irrigation system from DripWorks is not attached to. So we use the tree diaper in replacement of a traditional drip irrigation system, and that is the primary reason why we have spaghetti squash, is because the tree diaper has kept those plants hydrated and gave them the water that they needed when they needed it.
Right. So that's how our squash.
And we're dealing with powdery mildew right now, but we're technically about 30 days to the end of the season, most likely, and the plants have already fully developed, so we're not too concerned with that. And it's not affecting the zucchini, which is still producing, so we're just going to leave it be.
So the garlic did amazing. I don't know what happened, but that's okay. We got a really good garlic harvest, nice full bulbs, and
Right.
It did really well. So we're happy about that.
Well, let's take a look at something that we didn't do very good with, or what we had problems with, which was downy mildew on our basil plants. Now we had big Italian leaf basil, we had dwarf basil, and opal basil, or a purple basil. The downy mildew hit all of them very badly. The Italian large leaf basil is kind of coming back. The dwarf basil is pretty much gone. The opal basil has returned with vengeance and is really producing. Holly, can you explain what downy mildew is and the appearance is? The leaves begin to curl and there's very dark black spots throughout the leaf is the tell sign of what that does, or that the effect of it. And it's because of a lot of moisture, a lot of humidity.
Yeah, so it's a fungus-like organism that it appears in mid to late summer, which is when ours appeared.
Right.
And then when conditions are warm and humid, which we had.
We had a lot of rain there
Yeah.
for about 2 weeks, and this is when that took effect.
And it travels via wind or the water getting splashed up on to the leaves. So that's also, so the lower leaves are affected first, and then it moves up on the plant. And so it's just kind of a perfect storm, essentially. And that's what happens. So, and the host plant is susceptible because of that perfect storm. So the conditions are just right. So if you want to help prevent it, Next year, one is pull those plants out and throw them away. Don't put them in your compost or burn them or whatever. And don't put them in the city compost. Two, you can use, like irrigation that can help.
We should have mulched.
Also mulch, yeah. Mulch helps too. Because obviously, you can irrigate all you want, but if it's going to rain, stuff is going to splash up. It's going to happen.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot we can do about it. Then the other problem that we had, and we're still having it, even though the nights are getting cooler, is the peppers are developing on the vine, but they are like slimy and rotting before they get fully developed. It's a bacterial soft rot of peppers. Now, this is not a blossom end rot. It's throughout the actual plant, actual fruit, around the stem where it connects to the plant, the plant, down the side. It gets mushy on the bottom. It's all portions of the plant, and this is a bacteria issue that again has some relevance to high temperatures, high humidity, and elevated rainfall, which this all started happening when we had those 2 weeks of a lot of rain.
Yep. So that's contributed to a couple of our problems. You look at the tomato
pepper, and the pepper. You touch it and it just falls right to the ground, splatters.
Yeah. And it also can be spread in fields where peppers are rotated with crops such as cabbage and potato. I don't think we had either of those. We
didn't have peppers in the raised bed from Root Maker next to the shed. We had that in that 4x4. That was potatoes last year. But the excessive rain is what I'm thinking is the main problem with this.
Yeah. I'm just saying that if anybody has this issue, maybe they didn't have excessive rain and
they're still trying to put together the pieces. Why is this occurring? Could have been from past crops that had this issue that left in the soil.
But it also talks about, when we did a little bit looking into this, you can spread it also by your tools, picking buckets, picking trays, whatever. And this is one thing Joy and I talk about, is washing things with warm, soapy water. And that is something that you want to keep in mind, especially if you're going in containers. If you empty those containers out, you want to make sure you wash them year after year.
Warm, soapy water. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Well, that's just some of the things that did well for us, some of the things that didn't do so well for us. What happened in your garden this year? We'd love to hear what is going on or what did well, didn't do well. You can send us an email, gardentalkradio@gmail.com, or give us a call, 1-800-927-7469. Well, Holly, summer's over. I think that's official now. Nights are getting cooler. Days are getting shorter. And the yard has been forgotten about.
Yeah, just because it's fall, we don't want to forget about our yards. Those Japanese beetles either. They may be gone, but they're not far. Not only do they feast on your roses and berries this summer, they laid eggs in your turf so that they can start again next year. You can take a stand with Phylum's Grubgone. Grubgone is a non-chemical Bt granular that specifically targets those scarab pests and their larvae. Simply apply the granule with a spreader, irrigate into the soil, and let the naturally occurring bacteria do its job.
Not only is Grubgone easy to use, but it's the only non-chemical choice that effectively controls those grubs in your soil. And the best part about it, it's non-toxic to butterflies, bees, and other pollinators. In fact, Grubgone has 0 label restrictions for use around flowering plants. So you don't have to worry about them taking them back to the hive and toxifying the hive and losing more pollinators. You can find all this out at PhylumBioproducts.com. That's PHYLLOM bioproducts.com. Grubgone, the natural choice. Hang out. Hey there, gardeners. Thanks for checking out this segment of the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. If you like what you've seen, you can search through the channel and find full in-studio videos of the entire show. If you want to go another route, you can search for it on your favorite podcast platform by searching the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show or the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show, and you can download it and take it with you. You can check out all past seasons at our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, under the radio tabs at the top of the page. We thank you for joining us. We hope you've learned and enjoyed the show, the segment, and we'll see you next time.